This is the Lectric XP 2.0. It's a folding e-bike that packs a lot of great features for an affordable price. Let's talk about what you get for $1,100, my thoughts after riding it for a week, and what you can expect if you're going to buy one. Now, before we get to unboxing the bike that Lectric sent me for reviewing in this video, I wanted to start where your journey might if you decided to buy it, and that is on the website. All right, so here we are on Lectric e-bike's website, and I'll put a link in the description if you want to follow along. As you can see on the homepage, there's a nice advertisement for the brand new 2.0 model, so let's go ahead and click order now. One thing to note is it appears as of recording this video, there is a sale going on, and each of these is about $100 off. So keep that in mind if you're watching this video later and it seems like these are more expensive than they are now. As you can see, there are three different options available. There's the standard 2.0 model, which only comes in black. And then there's the step-through model, which comes in white or black. So depending on which type of frame you want, you might have more color options or less. Let's go ahead and click the standard 2.0 model since that's the one that Lectric sent me to review. Here we are on the product page, which is a pretty standard product page. You've got the price right here at the top and the option to finance if that's how you're going to be paying for this. Below that, you have a couple options for accessories packages that you could add on to the price of your bike. The first one is a comfort pack, which includes a giant seat and a suspension seat post. For $99, that's actually not a bad price considering when I upgraded both of these items on my personal e-bike, it cost me about like $120, $130. And if you've watched any of my previous e-bike videos, you know that a common complaint is how uncomfortable those stock bike seats are. So definitely worth a consideration for the comfort pack. And then next you have the cargo pack, which gets you a few different storage options. The first being a front-mounted bike basket, which I'm not a big fan of front-mounted bike baskets, but to each their own, I suppose. And then you get two different size options for the rear rack. And I don't know if you'd use both of those options because if you found that you like the large basket size, would you ever downgrade to go to the smaller size if it fits comfortably? I think not. And at $150, that's actually pretty expensive considering you can get a third-party bike basket on somewhere like eBay for probably less than 50 bucks. And if you're not saving any money by getting all three of those at the same time, I don't know if it'd be worth that price, and I personally wouldn't recommend it. And then of course you can get both of these together for $248, but you're not saving any money that way because it's just the cost of both of these packages added together. The only package you're actually saving some money on is the comfort pack because individually the giant seat is $40 and the suspension seat post is $89. So you're saving about $30 by buying them together as opposed to outright. Now lastly, let's go back and take a look at some of the accessories that are available. First, we got the two accessories bundles that we already saw at checkout. And then you've got this bike lock, which actually mounts to the bike in a nice flush way, but I can't really speak to how secure the bike lock is because I haven't used it myself. Then you got some rear view mirrors. Some people like having those. I don't ride my e-bikes on the street all that often. I usually stick to trails, so I don't really find a need for having rear view mirrors, and I think they look kind of silly. But then you got a premium headlight, phone mount, which is actually a competitive price for some phone mounts you might see on Amazon for about 20 to 30 bucks. So I like having a phone mounted on my bike for maps and such. You have a water resistant bag for 49 bucks. You can buy the seat post or the seat outright for individual costs. And then you have the option for some spare batteries, which is actually pretty cool considering a lot of e-bike manufacturers won't even offer those spare batteries. They're a little pricey at $300, especially when you're only spending $1,100 for the bike, but I guess it depends on how far you plan on riding and if you're gonna have a place to store those extra batteries. You can buy an additional charger to keep with you though if you're going to, let's say, your office and you have a place to charge it up, so maybe save yourself $250 and just get a spare charger instead. All right, so that's about everything involved with going on the website and choosing your bike. So now let's go ahead and unbox it. All right, here it is as it arrived on my doorstep. Something I want to show you though is there is damage to the box from shipping, which is pretty usual if you order a bike off the internet. That's why it's usually a good idea to take it to a bike shop for servicing before your first ride, but Lectric actually suggests that we ride it around for 100 miles to get through that break-in period and then take it to a professional. So let's get it out of the box, see if there's any damage, and get to it. Cue the montage. All right, and that's it for assembly. As far as mail order bikes go, this one was pretty simple. I didn't even have to attach the front tire, it was already there. The handlebars pretty much folded into place, and even upgrading the seat was as simple as tightening it to the post and just sliding it into place. Now that it's all put together, let's take it outside, get a closer look at all the new features, and then give it its first ride. Here it is in all its glory, the Lectric XP 2.0, that's the second generation. It is a 63-pound bike, so it's not necessarily more portable, but it does fold right down the middle here. As you can see, the frame is pretty thick and a little chunky, but for good reason. It houses the 48-volt lithium-ion battery, and it makes it a little bit more subtle by being built into the frame. You don't have an exposed battery under your bike like some other e-bikes. The battery has a range of about 45 miles depending on your riding conditions, your weather, whether or not you're going uphill or not, and it takes 4 to 5 hours to charge. All right, then coming to the back wheel here, let's take a look at the rear hub motor. It's 500 watts nominal, which isn't as powerful as like a 750 watt that you'd see on other e-bikes, but with 5 levels of pedal assist, you shouldn't have any problems getting up hills unless you plan on using the throttle the entire time. Out of the box, this is a Class 2 e-bike, which means it has a top speed of 20 miles per hour. But it does have the option to unlock Class 3 capabilities, which can get it up to 28 miles per hour. You should check your local laws to make sure that that's legal to do. And if you do unlock those Class 3 capabilities, you do have to remove a safety sticker to let people know that it does go that fast. All right, and both the rear and the front wheels have 160 millimeter Tektro mechanical disc brakes, which is gonna be great for slowing you down at those higher speeds. The tires themselves are 20 by 3-inch fat tires. This bike does come included with a front suspension fork, which is gonna be really great for your comfort, especially if you ride on bumpier roads. There's also a fender, and for the price, it's really nice to have those features included because normally you have to pay upwards of $1,500 for a bike that has those out of the box. The headlight also is included with the bike. It's not as large or bright as the premium one that you can get for $50, but a headlight nonetheless. One of the new features with the second generation model is wider handlebars, which is great for being able to mount accessories to it like a phone mount. You can adjust the height of the handlebars, which is great for someone that's tall like me because I'm not going to be hunching over when I ride. There are Tektro brakes, as I said before, and a Shimano gear shifter with 7 speeds. So that's going to be great for controlling the amount of tension in addition to your pedal assist from the motor. The throttle is a half twist throttle, which is my favorite type of throttle for e-bikes because it lets you control the amount of acceleration you get from the motor, but you're not going to accidentally engage it when you move your hand up and down. In the center here, you have a nice big LCD screen, which is going to give you your stats like your distance, your speed, etc. And to the left of it is the controls for the LCD screen. I like how simple it is. There's only 3 buttons here, and they're fairly tactile buttons. Let's turn it on and take a look at some of the menus. Again, you have your battery level, you've got your speed, you've got your pedal assist, and you've got your odometer. You actually have a lot of options for settings with this bike. You can do things like change the units of measurement, change the sensitivity of the motor, and even the speed limits. You can also set cruise control on this bike by pushing the minus button while throttling, and that will maintain that current speed without having to pedal or hold the throttle at all. Another new feature with the second generation model is it has multiple mounting points for accessories. You've got this front mounting point for a basket, and then back here you've got a rear rack for saddlebags or another basket. And then right down here, you've got a mounting point for that bike lock we showed you earlier. All right, and I think that covers most of the features on this bike. Now I'm gonna ride it around for the next week or so, and I'll come back and let you know what I think about it. I've been riding the Lectric XP 2.0 for a little over a week now, and so here's what I think of it after having put about 50 miles on it. The first few rides I took it on, I kept it a little on the slow side, going no faster than about 15 miles an hour. And that's because I needed to spend that time really dialing in the motor sensitivity to get it where I wanted, but I also didn't want to be unsafe riding on bike paths around other people on bikes. Once I got everything dialed in the way I like it, I then decided to push the bike a little bit harder. I took it up to 20 miles an hour and went on all kinds of different surfaces like asphalt and dirt, which got pretty bumpy at times. Unfortunately, when I unlocked those Class 3 capabilities, it did not get the full 28 miles per hour. The fastest I was able to get it going was 23 miles an hour, so not full Class 3 capabilities, but good enough to ride on city streets. When I first got it, I was pretty impressed with how many features you get, like suspension, fenders, all that good stuff. But after having ridden it for some time now, it's starting to show its weaknesses. Right after the first time I took it on a dirt trail, I noticed there was an error on the screen that said E10. When I got home from that ride, I looked at the manual to see what that error meant, and it said there was a problem with the connection between the LCD screen and the motor, which makes sense because I wasn't getting any kind of speedometer reading after I got that error. So I traced all the cables on the bike and made sure all the connections were secure, and on the next ride, the error seems to have resolved itself. Hey, real quick, as I was on my way home from filming that yesterday, I noticed that error did return. So I reached out to Lectric to ask what the problem might be, and they did confirm that there was in fact an issue with some of the early displays that were shipped out. So they're sending me a new display to install on the bike, and I will pin an update in the comments of whether or not that resolved the issue. All right, back to the video. All in all, I think the bike performs pretty well, especially considering the price. While the 500 watt motor did seem to work just fine, it handled hills pretty admirably, I will say that it wasn't the smoothest experience that I've had riding an e-bike. It actually felt a bit jerky at times. When you pedal the bike even just a little bit, that motor can engage for up to a full second. So when you're doing things like coasting to a stop and need to get just a little bit further, you have to anticipate whether or not you're gonna have enough room in case that motor kicks on. I also noticed that the bike doesn't seem to manage power all that well. I'm very doubtful that the range holds up to that 45-mile claim, riding it like I ride typical e-bikes at about a medium pedal assist and little to no throttle. But maybe if you have everything set to the lowest level and you're riding on super flat surfaces, you might get to 45 miles, but I personally wouldn't chance it. Even though this is a folding e-bike, I wouldn't necessarily call it portable. Sure, it takes up less vertical space in your home, but when it's folded, it's a lot wider, and I pretty much just stored it unfolded on the kickstand when it was inside my office. The best use for the folding features was the fact that I was able to put it in my car without having to use a bike rack, but even that is a two-person job because the folding mechanism doesn't lock into place when it's folded, so it's very easy to accidentally let go of the wrong part and have it unfold on you when you're carrying it. It was actually much easier to carry this bike unfolded than when it was folded. After putting more than 50 miles on this bike, I can tell you it definitely needs a tune-up. I'm starting to hear some squeaks here and there, I'm hearing brake pads rub against disc brakes, and the gear shifter doesn't work as cleanly as I would like it when shifting to certain speeds. I feel like I'm being super negative about this bike though, and that's not my intention. It's actually a really good bike, especially for the price. If someone looking to buy their first e-bike were to ask me which one to get and they weren't sure how much they were gonna ride it or where they were gonna ride it, but they wanted to get one anyways, I would tell them to heavily consider the Lectric XP, mostly because of how many features you get for the price. It'll really help you figure out which features are most important to you when you go to upgrade to a higher end model in the future. Are you interested in buying the Lectric XP 2.0? If so, let me know down in the comments why. I'm really curious to know what you have to say. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If so, all I ask that you give it a nice thumbs up, which helps us out big time in the YouTube algorithm. And make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've got lots of other great e-bike videos, and so do our friends over at Roadshow. So definitely check those out. All right, thanks for watching. See you next time.